at Blue Fruits Farm with Jim Riddle, who's an organic farmer, and he's showing us all around the facilities. Can you tell us this berry again? What's it called?
Yeah, it's called the Aronia, or black chokeberry, or appleberry. Just hay fields up here. There was nothing here when we first settled up here, and built this house ourselves. We tore down an old barn. We reused the beams, the foundation stone, and tore down several other structures. And so it's earth sheltered, passive solar, wood heat, has a walk-in root cellar underground. And for many years was totally off-grid with photovoltaic, and we had a small wind generator. Most of our tillable land is in native prairie production. So this seed is harvested, hand harvested from these various native plants and sold through a business called Prairie Moon Nursery that started here at Wiscoy Land Co-op.
What's the purpose of the native plants?
Well, they sell them for big bucks. The seed is very expensive.
For aesthetics? For
pollinator habitat, for just reintroducing natives, for low maintenance yards that don't need mowed.
Okay. They are pretty.
Beautiful wildflowers.
Right,
and just
right. So this is bergamot that you see the bumblebees working. So that's in the mint family.
The purpose is to feed.
So we have very few pest problems just because of the incredible biodiversity here. So we have very strong populations of native pollinators. So bumblebees, all sorts of
So you're very
bees.
tied to natural rain. Has precipitation been changing?
Well, it's more, yes, it's been changing. It's unpredictable. It's more dramatic. So in 2007, we got 17 inches of rain in 24 hours.
Oh, wow.
Right.
That's incredible.
And then, you know, parts of Iowa, just this year, we're getting 5-inch rains. You know, just things that were unheard of not that long ago. So a lot more big thunderstorms, big dumps, big downpours, or things are tracking on the same track, so you get some areas getting consistent heavy rains and others just down the road just dry, just continually dry.
Oh, wow.
And I think I was hearing that, you know, some climate scientists saying that's one unpredicted impact is that the jet streams have like stalled and are just directing precipitation in the same area or drought in the same area. And that was an impact that wasn't quite predicted.
And what does it mean to get a 17-inch rain overnight?
Well,
For
it means I'm glad I live on the ridge.
Yeah.
That's why the fellow who was renting this at the time, he had a lot of valley fields and they were totally destroyed. And he had big contracts with Whole Foods, and yeah, it was a mess.
So the soils just get completely washed out?
Yeah, yeah, he had potatoes where, yeah, they were just exposed, and then they're contaminated, any floodwater contact, or silt comes down. I mean, there were hillsides that just collapsed, so trees just coming down.
So there's a misconception, we always kind of hear that, the climate's changing, the globe may be warming, we'll get more rain and it's better for agriculture. And one of the things that we find as we talk to farmers is oftentimes we get these extreme precipitation events, and that's not good for agriculture.
No, right. And I'm really glad we're doing perennials and we've got everything covered. We don't have any erosion. We've got great carbon sequestration going on. But we used to do vegetables, so potatoes, green beans, sweet corn in the same field. And the way the springs are now, they've been really cool and wet where you couldn't work the ground. And then all of a sudden it just gets hot.
Oh, wow.
And like you should have been out there 2 weeks ago, but now, you know, so, yeah, it's really extreme.
So we're looking at the water storage unit that Jim has, collecting water from the roof.
So from one rain, like just a normal rain, how much of this would you say fills up? Just like an average?
Well, 1 inch gets us about 1,000 gallons.
Wow.
1 inch rain.
Wow.
That's great. And that's just from the one roof, right?
Yeah,
Wow.
right.
It's amazing.
Can you tell me the name of this plant again?
Yeah, it's Hairy Mountain Mint, and it's a native prairie plant that we grow and harvest and sell the seed from. But you see all the different pollinators that are working on it right now.
It's like a party for insects.
It's the nectar mall.
Wow.
Very cool.
We've lost 90% of the population from just in the last 20 years
Of monarch butterflies?
monarch butterflies. They feed exclusively on milkweed plants, so things in the milkweed family, and those have been wiped out with herbicides, but then also the BT corn, the genetically engineered corn, has toxin in the genetic code that kills lepidopterans, that kills butterfly and moth larvae. And so they've suffered from two things. And so, yeah, their population has collapsed.
So we were driving through Iowa yesterday, Shahir and I, and we were passing all these fields of corn and soybean and other types of crops that we learned are mostly for, not for humans, but to feed animals.
Right,
Really
well, not
shocking.
just to feed animals, but to feed cars. 40 to 50% of the whole nation's corn crop goes to ethanol.
Wow.
And a lot of the soybeans go to biodiesel. So, yeah, we're using all these chemicals and genetically engineered and wiping out all the pollinators and polluting the groundwater in order to fuel our vehicles and feed confined animals who suffer until they die.
So Jim, what's the sentiment about climate change in the area? Do people talk about it? Are people noticing it?
Well, people certainly notice that the weather extremes get people's attention. But, you know, most of the conversations I'm a part of aren't talking about kind of the global situation as more as what are you doing on your farm, or how's your garden doing, or, you know, people putting up solar, how do you do that? You know, it's much more practical. But we do a lot of educational events, field days, tours, different groups, kids, elderly, whatever, and talk about sustainability and some of the life choices that we've made, as well as how we operate the farm.
So, in terms of extreme weather events, people are aware and they're concerned. Is there concern about this?
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty obvious these days. I mean, you look at the wildfires, things that are both distant from us, but as well as the 5 to 10 inch rainfalls that come in this area. You know, it's just the weather is speaking volumes. It's so extreme.
And you just mentioned the debate. You said there's the people here aren't debating climate change.
Oh no. You know, we've been working to try and do our part for living in harmony with the earth for decades already. So this is nothing new to us.
Yeah.
It's, you know, it's just there's so many people that are interested and do care, but yet you have the businesses that are invested in the status quo, and right now they're continue to call the shots and the clock is ticking. It's pretty sad. And if I focus on that too much, I get depressed about, I mean, why should our daughter have another child?
Right,
you know,
right.
But yet I love my grandchildren, so I'd rather focus on the happiness in my life now and hope for the best and do what I can to try and make things better.
Well, you're doing a whole lot here on the farm with the sustainable infrastructure you have and the way that you're doing your farming practices. Last question, why organic?
Well, you know, pesticides kill, insecticides kill. That's their whole design, that's the purpose. And I think, you know, I grew up in Iowa. It's just really depressing, sad what's happened there. It's a biological desert in a lot. So I want to foster life. I'm a pro-life when you know, from the ground up is the way I say it. You know, the microbes in the soil are just as important as I am on this planet. And so organic is just a way that, you know, builds life at every trophic level. It sustains life. It's based on a positive harmony with the Earth systems rather than the false notion that we can control nature, which we just can't.
Well, thank you, Jim. We're here on Blue Fruits Farm with Jim Riddle, and he's given us a great tour. I love what you're doing here, and excited to share it with other people.
Yeah, well, that's great. I really appreciate what you're doing, and good luck with your adventures and your research and your lives.
Thank you.